In this video for section 7.3, we're going to talk about the sampling distribution of a proportion. So we use the letter P for population proportion, and just like with sample means, we have a sampling distribution of a sample proportion. So important information that we need to know when we're dealing with proportions. The mean that we're going to use is going to be that proportion that we are given in the problem. The standard deviation is something that we are going to need to calculate using this formula. So I'm going to put boxes around these because these are important things to know here. Particularly this standard deviation formula you're going to need to use for the problems that we're going to do. So we're going to use the normal distribution in Minitab. We're going to put in the proportion for the mean and this formula we're going to use to calculate the standard deviation. So let's look at an example here. We have a coupon company that has determined that 15% of coupons go unused. What is the probability that out of 500 coupons sold for one particular retailer, 18% or more will go unused? So our mean that we're going to use, I'll switch back to my black marker here, our mean is going to be that 15% proportion, and we're going to enter that as a decimal into Minitab. And our standard deviation, we are going to calculate using this formula. So square root of 0.15 times 1 minus 0.15, which I know is 0.85. So I can do that in my head or type it into my calculator, divided by n, which is the number in the sample. So in this case, that's 500. So I'm going to need to use a calculator to calculate this. I'm going to show you how to calculate it on the Desmos calculator. So I have that here. Go to Math Tools. This is desmos.com. Math Tools and Scientific Calculator. I'm going to hit the square root button first. Then I'm going to hit the fraction button because I want the square root to be over everything in this case. And then I'm going to type this in. So 0.15, parentheses, 1 minus 0.15, and then divided by 500. And I get my standard deviation here. So 0.015967. Again, I want to keep several digits after the decimal point. I don't want to round this to like 0.02. That could lead me to get a wrong answer. Even though my process is correct. So we will write this out here, 0.015, I'll go to 5 digits after the decimal point, 1597. Okay. And then the other thing that I need for entering this into Minitab is I need to know my question. So my question is, what is the probability? So that tells me that I'm entering an x value. These problems can get a little bit tricky because they're going to be giving you the x values as decimals or as percents. And so this is not a probability. So what you really want to pay attention to is what is the question asking. If it's asking for the probability, then you aren't entering the probability. What you are entering is the x value. And since this is 18% or more, then that tells us that it's going to be a right tail. So let's go to Minitab and put this in here. Our mean is 0.15. Standard deviation, 0.01597. Make sure that you're getting the right number of zeros in your number. Click on Options, and we are doing right tail, specified x value, and that x value is 0.18. So here's my probability, 0.03015, or a little bit over 3%. So that's my answer to the question. Now, let me write that here first. 03015. One thing that some of the homework problems are going to ask you to do is they're going to ask you to interpret this. And so when I get my answer here, I see that it's about 3%. That means that it's not very likely to happen. 3% is a pretty low probability. And so what that means is that this is not likely to happen by chance. A low probability means that something is very unlikely to happen just by chance. And further, what it could mean in this situation is that the coupons are not working as they are intended to work. So if this few of people are using the coupon, then maybe that means that they're not getting it, or something else is going wrong in the system. So if I get a low probability, that usually indicates that there's a problem probably in the process or with the machine, and then in turn that means that's something that needs to be looked at or fixed.